Hey everyone, today I have a quick lower body flow for you that is going to mix sliding exercises with some Pilates inspired body weight movement. Now for the sake of space, I have my mat set up like this and then I'm going to flip it long ways. But for your convenience, I'm going to recommend that you have your mat long ways and then next to it you have your little space where you can do your sliding. I'm using a dish towel. If you're doing it on carpet though, hard textbooks work, so do magazine covers, paper plates, get creative. So like I mentioned, this is a flow. It is a continuous sequence. We're going to move from sliding down to the mat for some body weight stuff. When we finish one leg, I'll give you a chance to rest, shake it out before we repeat that sequence on the other side. As with all workouts, you want to make sure you're properly warmed up beforehand and always listen to your body, modifying or stopping as needed. Your best way to modify in this one, there's no jumping. They're all pretty accessible movements. So your best way to modify, just hit pause. Instead of doing the whole sequence continuously, take little breaks. Maybe you get through the sliding part, pause. The next chunk, pause, and so on. If you're new to my channel, I don't play music in the background because I want you to be able to listen to whatever you like. So if you don't have a playlist or a podcast or a TV show queued up, you might want to get that going. I'll be doing a lot of verbal cueing throughout this. And I apologize, it's 8 million degrees in my apartment, so I have to keep my windows open and I live on a pretty loud street. So if you hear a little background noise, too bad. All right, before we get going, isolating your right side, I want us to just kind of open up to the back side of the legs with a hip hinge, okay? So think of this as kind of an extension of the warm-up. So you're just gonna start hinging your hips back and bringing those hips forward, like a deadlift movement. The hips slide back, the hips draw forward. Your knees are not locked out, but you're not really thinking about bending them just yet, focusing in on this hip hinge. Back, grounding down through the feet, forward. Now we're gonna layer onto that. I want you to hinge back. You might need to separate your feet a little wider and then bend your knees coming into a squat and then stand. So it's that hinge, we drop it low, you drive it up. Hinge, lower, and up. When we get to the lunging, the focus is going to be the posterior side of our legs, so the back side. So I just wanna do a little bit of this movement before we get into that. Last time, you're just gonna hold low in that squat. Give me a little pulse. Up an inch, down an inch. Neutral spine, so you're reaching your tailbone long, broad across the collarbones. Here for 4. For 3, we're gonna get to the sliding in 2 and 1. Okay, so we're gonna start by isolating your right leg. Your right foot is going to be stationary. Your left foot is going to be on your slider. We're going to square our hips, and the first movement is going to be a back lunge, and then we'll release the back foot from that towel, and we'll go into a deadlift hinge. Let's go. So the hips slide down and back, big lean forward with the torso. As you come up, don't lock out the standing right leg. You release the back left foot from the floor. Tilt it forward. Come back up, that left foot lands, you're in your next lunge. So it's very important that you keep this hinge forward with the torso during the lunge so that we are targeting the posterior side of our leg. If you do a lunge with your torso straight up, it's more quad dominant. It's not wrong, it's just not what we're doing today. Halfway there, we're gonna go another 30 seconds in this combo before we go to our first variation. Now as you hinge forward, try to keep your hips square to the floor, so you might need to pull that left hip down in line with the right a smidge. In 10 seconds, we are going to hold that low lunge. We're going to go into knee slides. 3, 2, 1. I want you to hold it low. We're going to slide that back knee in and send it out. Now, check in on your hips. You want them square. So again, draw the right hip back, left hip forward, and you want them level to the floor. So you might need to take that back left hip and actually pick it up a smidge. Here for 30 seconds in this knee slide. We'll do one more variation and then we'll go back to that original combo. We're gonna hold a split lunge position. Get ready to draw the knee, that back knee in just about halfway in 3, in 2, pull it in just halfway and it's a little split lunge pulse down and up. Plant through that right foot. You're not coming all the way up to stand, it's a little pulse. Up a couple inches, down. Stay level through the hips. We start our original combo in 3, 2, 1. Straighten out your back leg as you rise up out of this lunge. Release that back foot. Slowly come up. So it's not about how many reps you get in. Slow and controlled movement. Woo, as I fall. So with your arms, you can do whatever's comfortable. If it helps you balance, you can airplane your arms behind you as you go into this hinge. Or you can just keep them hands at heart center on your hips. Doesn't matter to me. So we have one final variation in this opening sliding lunge series, and we're just gonna hold the deadlift hinge. That's coming up in about 15 seconds. It'll be a quick hold. And we wanna make sure we don't lock out the standing right knee. We keep our hips square to the floor as we do it. You're gonna hinge forward and hold in 3, 2, next time you come up, square those hips, release that back leg. From the top of your head to that back left heel, think one long line. Hold, you're almost there. We're gonna make our way down to the mat into tabletop in 3, 2, 1. Little editing magic to bring my mat into the right position. From tabletop, we're gonna lift that right knee up and we're gonna start tracing big circles through the hip. Doesn't matter the direction because we will switch at the halfway point. Now, as you create these circles, I don't want a ton of movement through your torso. So yes, it's that right leg that's moving. We're mobilizing through the hip joint, but what is the rest of our body doing to support this movement? We're not leaning into that outside left hip, so you might need to shift a little extra weight into your right hand. Switch the direction of your circle. Use your breath to help you maintain that long neutral spine. Get ready to hold at the top. Last 2. Last circle this direction. Now meet at the top, your hips are squared. Little pulse from here. That right foot is flexed, knee is bent. You're driving the heel up, up. Hips are square to the floor. Long spine, which means a long neutral neck, so you're not letting your head hang heavy. Next variation coming up, we're gonna hold the leg lifted. It's gonna be a swivel open, kind of like a fire hydrant, or a dog peeing on a hydrant, I should say. 3, pulse 2, hold. Now it's a tight little swivel. So what is this movement? It is your femur, your thigh bone swiveling open in the hip joint. So you twist it open, squeezing the glutes, but without lifting the hip up. So it's not this, okay? The hip, or the pelvis, I should say, stays stable. It's that thigh bone rotating within the hip joint. Get ready to hold it externally rotated, and now it's a little lift. Up, up. Squeeze it up, up. Now if your foot starts to cramp from holding it flexed, you can point your foot instead, okay? Not a huge deal. We're gonna go back to those circles. We're doing this one more time in 3, 2, 1. We're just gonna go through that sequence one more time. Nice big hip circles. So a big focus of this workout is mobility within the hip joint and stabilizing all of those muscles that help create a healthy hip joint. So your hip is a ball and socket. Switch the direction of your circles, which means it doesn't just flex and extend. It can rotate, it can laterally flex, and we're gonna work all those movements. One more circle, you're gonna hold at the top. Square off your hips, foot is flexed, and it's a little pulse, up, up. Now, hopefully you also feel your supporting left side seat working here. Again, we're not leaning into that side. You're gonna hold at the top. We have that swivel coming up. With your hands, really push the floor away. 3, 2, hold at the top, and it's that swivel. It's so small. Spiral the thigh bone open, back to parallel. There's not shifting within the pelvis though. It's staying square to the floor. 4 more. Get ready to hold that external rotation. It's a little pulse up, up. You got it. We're gonna come to leg on our left side with the left knee bent. So you're gonna mirror me. In 4, 3, 2, 1. We're gonna lay it down. So your bottom left knee is bent. I want you to come all the way down, supporting your head. You can just kind of rest it on your hand or on your forearm. Your torso is in one long line, so kind of line it up with the back of the mat. Now from here, engage through your obliques. So we're stacked through the pelvis, and this top leg is just gonna lift and lower. Lift and lower to start. Now it doesn't have to lift high, you're really just lifting it up to hip height. If it goes too high, you're gonna have to dump into your pelvis, and I don't want that. Now you're noticing I'm pointing to lift and flexing to lower. If that works for you, I want you to do that. If it's confusing, doesn't feel natural, I don't care so much about pointing or flexing through the foot. Now we have a combo coming up. You're gonna hold that leg at hip height. We're gonna bend it in. Oops, I messed up my foot flexing. We're gonna bend it in and then add in a little internal rotation. In 3, 2, 1. Next time up, hold. Now you're gonna bend the knee into 90 so it's stacked parallel over your bottom one. Internally rotate, so knee towards knee, back to parallel, press it out. Bend, internally rotate, back to parallel, press it back. So when you do that internal rotation, your knee doesn't actually have to touch the bottom knee. You might not have that much internal rotation available to you. I don't. You're thinking of rotating within the hip joint without moving the pelvis, okay? Now this time I want you to hold, and we're just gonna do that internal rotation. Parallel, internal, parallel. So the foot points up, the knee points down, little internal, back to parallel. Now coming up, we're just gonna make this a little bigger. You're gonna go internal to external. In 3, 2, 1. Now come through parallel, find some external rotation. Internal to external. Bigger is not better, okay? Again, only as much internal and external rotation as you can get without rocking through that pelvis. So your obliques are doing a lot of work here. Instead of pushing your bottom side body into the floor, almost think of gently lifting it away from your mat. Now we're gonna hold the internal rotation coming up for some little pulses. This is where you finish up this leg, okay? We're not going through this block twice. Hold internal in 3, 2, last time, hold the internal rotation, and it's a little pulse up. It's so small. Up, up. My couch is kind of in the way. A little pulse. We're done with this leg in 10 seconds. Little pulse, little pulse. 4 more, 3 more, 2, 1. Done. Let's roll on to the back. Oh, move my mic pack. Hug your knees in towards your chest and just give me a little rock side to side. And then stretch your left leg out and just bring your right leg across for a quick twist. You should also feel a nice opening through the outside of the glutes and hips. Good. Coming back through center, just windshield wiper those knees a little bit. We're going to start at the top. We're going to do that whole thing, isolating the left leg. All right, let's do it. You're at the halfway point. Let's start at the top. Okay, another magical mat change. So your left foot is going to be stationary, right foot's going to be on your slider. Square your hips. We're going to start with 60 seconds of that back lunge to that deadlift hinge. Let's go. So remember, big lean forward. So from the top of my head to that back heel is a long diagonal line so that we focus on the posterior side of that leg, your hamstrings, your glutes. If your back foot isn't landing cleanly on your slider, and if you're using a dish towel, just unfold it so that it's bigger and then you have more space to land, which I need to do because that was not working. Now remember, as you hinge, hips are square to the floor. Don't lock out through this standing left leg. You can do whatever with the arms that works for you, but I just want you to make sure you're not rounding your shoulders. In 15 seconds, we'll have our first change. We'll hold low. We'll go into those knee slides with the back leg. Woo, wobbly on this side. All right, hold low in 3, 2, let's go into those knee slides. So I still have that hinge forward, so my shoulders are stacked over this knee. I'm grounding down through that left foot. I'm very light through my back right foot. You're here for 30 seconds, just 20 now. The next change coming up, you'll bend this back right knee in just about halfway to a split lunge position, and we'll do those pulses. Make sure your hips are square, so you might need to draw that right hip forward. I just did. 3, 2, hold the split lunge, and it's a pulse down a few inches, up. Trying to keep our hips parallel to the floor, so you might need to take this left hip and hitch it up a little bit. Or sorry, right hip. We're gonna go back to that original combo in 3, 2, straighten out your back leg. As you come out of that lunge, maintain that unlock through the front knee. We hinge it forward, slowly lifting up. You're here for another 60 seconds. Oh my God, it is so hot in my friggin' apartment. I'm dying. I don't know if the workout is tough or I am just doing it in a sweat box. Maybe both. "30 more seconds in this combo. Whoop. And again, slow, controlled movement. It's not about how many reps you get in. Try to maintain that long, neutral spine. Now we're gonna finish with that balance challenge. You're gonna come up into your free fall or your deadlift. Hips are square, soft bend to that knee. Let's do it. Hold. Pull your right hip down a smidge, make sure they're level. Abdominal wall is engaged. Reaching that back leg long, whoop, as I fall. We're down on our mat in 3, 2, 1, tabletop. So come down to your mat. Hands are stacked under shoulders and knees under hips. Your left knee is bent. You're going to start tracing nice big hip circles. Whoop, I don't have enough space. As you trace these circles, we're not leaning into that supporting right side. So there is a gentle squeeze through your right butt cheek here. So a big emphasis in this workout is hip mobility and strengthening those hip mobilizers, not just the hip flexors, okay? You hear a lot of talk about the hip flexors. We want to get into those external and internal rotators. We're doing some lateral flexion later on. Switch direction with those hip circles. With your hands, you're pushing the floor away. We have our first hold coming up. It's a donkey kick pulse, so your hips will be square. In 3, 2, hold at the top, hips are level, thigh bone points straight to the floor, foot is flexed, and it's a little pulse up. So it's like you're stamping your heel to the ceiling, squeezing into the left side glutes. The next change, we'll hold it lifted, it'll be that little hydrant swivel. And again, you're not thinking of moving your pelvis. 3, 2, hold, it's that tight little swivel open. So what I was trying to say, pelvis doesn't move, just think of that thigh bone spiraling within the hip socket. If your leg feels crampy because you're holding your foot flexed, point it, okay? Doesn't matter. You're gonna hold it open in 3, in 2, hold that external rotation, and it's a tiny pulse up. Now it's a pulse up, and the pulse is coming from here, not your low back. So I don't want your low back to move with it. We're gonna go back to the hip circles, just doing that whole thing one more time. In 3, 2, 1, nice big hip circles, doesn't matter the direction. So yes, this is a mobility movement, but your musculature is still working. So it's controlled mobility. Let's switch direction of those circles. Right side is stabilizing. Three more circles this direction. You're going to hold up for those donkey kick pulses. Last time. Now hold up. Square your hips, flex the foot, little pulse. Up, up. The movement does not come from your low back, it comes from the seat. We're going to hold it lifted. We're going to go into that tight hydrant, that external rotation in 3, 2, hold. It's that tight little swivel. So what is creating this movement? It's your lateral rotators, your glutes. So don't even think of initiating the movement with your knee. Think of initiating it through your glutes. Next time I want you to hold it, rotate it open. It's that little pulse up to finish. Woo, I'm feeling it. I don't know about you. We're gonna lay down on our right side. I'm gonna mirror you. Last section in 3, 2, 1. Let's lay down on that right side. Your bottom right knee is bent, kind of at 90 for support. We're gonna lay all the way down, line your back up with the back of your mat. And then from here, we're gonna start by lifting and lowering that top leg. So a seemingly pretty simple movement, but we're doing it very thoughtfully. So as your leg lifts, you're not rolling your pelvis, okay? We want to keep it level. Again, I'm flexing as I lower, pointing as I lift. If you lose that, or it's just not working for you, don't worry so much about the point or flex of the foot, okay? I know I lost it a bunch on the last side. We have that combo coming up next. We're going to hold the leg lifted. We'll bend it in. We're going to add some internal rotation. And then we'll press it long. In 3, 2, hold up. Okay, now we're going to bend the knee in. You might need to bring that bottom knee forward a little bit. Bend it in so that they're parallel. Internally rotate, so knee down, foot up, back to parallel, stretch it long. In, find that little internal rotation, and send it long. So when we were in tabletop, there was a big focus on that externally rotated position towards the end. In this one, we're really focusing on that internal rotation. Although we do add an external. All right, now this time in, I want you to hold, and it's just that internal rotation without rolling forward through your pelvis. Maintaining a neutral spine, so reach your tailbone long. You shouldn't feel clenchy in your low back. Don't worry if the knee actually touches the knee. You're working in your range of motion, okay? Now let's start to make it a little bigger. You internally rotate, you come through center, you externally rotate. Put your top hand on your hip for a second. Notice as if it's rocking forward and back. Try to hold it stacked directly over your bottom one. Internal, external. Obliques are working. Last little bit of work here. We don't go through this one twice. A little finisher. We're going to hold the internal in 3, in 2, in 1. Next time you internally rotate, hold, hips are stacked, little pulse, up, up. It's so small. Little lift, little lift. You're almost there. This is where you finish this flow. Give me 4, 3, 2, and 1, done. Roll onto your back. Hug your knees in towards your chest. Might feel good to do a little rock side to side. And then stretching your right leg long, keep that left knee in, and you're just gonna bring it across into a nice twist. Coming back through center, I want you to bend both knees and put your hands right on those kneecaps, and let's just trace some nice hip circles, legs moving in opposition. Don't worry so much about what the rest of your spine is doing. Unlike that tabletop position where I really wanted you to hold it at neutral, you can invite in a little free movement here, a little rocking and rolling through the pelvis. Switch direction of those circles. One side might feel a little stickier than the other, and that is okay. I know my left side's always cranky. Come through center and let's just finish up with a happy baby. If this feels okay, you can always skip it. Hands are gonna grab the feet. Knees are kind of drawing down towards your shoulder blades, or towards your armpits. And then from here, I like to add in just a little side to side rock, kind of a low back massage. Releasing when you're ready. Big full body stretch. And that is your workout. If you enjoyed it, you know the drill. Give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to my channel. I post new workouts here every Monday, sometimes more frequently. So hit subscribe so you never miss one. I'll see you next week.